Alright, I'm in the mine.
Almost a year since Resident Evil 7 launched, this week we got not one but two new pieces of extra content. Not a Hero, which stars Chris Redfield in a cleanup operation after the events of the main game, and End of Zoe, which sees players take on the role of a previously unknown member of the Baker family. We've played both campaigns and so are here with our thoughts. Here are 7 WTF moments from Resident Evil 7's new DLC. The end of Resident Evil 7 left us with a lot of questions. Was that really Chris Redfield? How did he end up here? And why on earth is he working for evil pharmaceutical conglomerate Umbrella? Not a Hero kind of references the last and biggest of these questions, but it doesn't really answer it in a satisfying way. Apparently, Umbrella wants to make amends for its past and is now a force for good in the Resident Evil universe. As if anyone would believe that. Chris seemingly does though, to an extent, which seems like a very silly thing to do. Are we going to find out more about the circumstances surrounding this shaky alliance at a later date? Well, you'd certainly hope so.
I know it must be difficult, and to tell the truth, a lot of our members have been with us since even before we reincorporated as a PMC. About all that's left now is the name.
As a big fan of Resident Evil 7's return to slow-burning survival horror, I was a little surprised and a tiny bit disappointed to see Not a Hero fall back on a more action-oriented approach. After playing as Ethan in Resident Evil 7's main campaign and being hopelessly outmatched and terrified by the Molded, it's funny to go back to playing as Chris Redfield, armed to the teeth with a pistol, knife, shotgun, and a sci-fi holographic helmet. At that point, the Molded mutate from a spooky adversary to just another threat needing to be neutralized. That's not to say Not a Hero doesn't have some good ideas, however. The spores caused by the mold create poison gas clouds that you need to swiftly move through in order to survive. And there are upgrades to your helmet that will allow you to breathe easy and see in the dark. There are also enemies that are invincible until you find a specific ammo type, but after it's found, you're never short enough on it that they'll ever really be scary again.
I don't know about you, Christopher, but I'm getting real tired of playing games.
Of course, the whole point of Not a Hero is hunting down the supposedly last surviving member of the Baker family, Lucas, who was apparently a bad egg even before little Evie came along and messed with everyone's head. Just like in the main game, Lucas prefers to fight from a distance, and sets up a number of puzzles and traps to catch you out. Though none of these have the showmanship or cleverness we see in the main game's VHS tapes, Lucas is still as sadistic as ever, and it all comes down to a last stand that, at first, it seems clear he's on the losing side of. But then, of course, this being Resident Evil, no one can actually die that easily. As boss fights go, it's a pretty straightforward one. Shoot the glowing weak spots until he dies. Still, it was pretty cool just to see this face-melting scene.
Love that, wouldn't you? Oh boy.
So this is what it feels like.
I guess that's Not a Hero in a nutshell, really. It brings a few new ideas to the table, but mostly it feels like it rolls right back on all the changes made in Resident Evil 7 and is more akin to the action of Resident Evil 5 or 6. It actually really feels like it was made specifically with fans of those games in mind. And while it's great to see a familiar face again, a few new monsters aren't enough to up the tension to make any of this feel like a threat to our one-man army. Case in point, he punches Molded to death, because of course he does. Hey, if you can punch a boulder into submission, why not one of these really squishy guys?
Die, motherfucker.
Speaking of punching though, would you believe that that's the main mechanic of the other new piece of content, End of Zoe? It kinda feels like someone at Capcom has been watching a lot of pay-to-view sports and thought it'd make for good gameplay. And it is, and it isn't. The first-person perspective, designed originally to keep monsters at a distance, is a little claustrophobic to use the mechanic effectively, especially given how important it can be to block, which severely restricts your vision. And it often feels slow and ineffective, forcing you to fall back on button bashing to win a bout. All that said though, Joe Baker is quite the character, and his running commentary as he crushes heads and swallows bugs is worth the price of admission. And it's good to see Capcom trying new things. It means that End of Zoe is so much more entertaining than the rather predictable Not a Hero. In fact, End of Zoe goes full-on Cookie Capcom bombast towards the end.
What the hell is this? One of their fancy toys?
By gifting players an Umbrella-sponsored punching gauntlet with which to take out the Swamp Man, an enemy that has dogged Joe the entire time he's tried to save Zoe. The Swamp Man's true identity is a nice little surprise too, helping bring the story full circle. But honestly, a gauntlet? Only Capcom. Not that we're complaining, it is rather satisfying. Thank goodness Joe is a southpaw.
Charge complete.
And did we mention you can spear mutated alligators and collect little boxing effigies to improve your hook? Yep, never change Resident Evil, never change. If you enjoyed this, do check out our other Resident Evil videos if you haven't already, including guides for all other RE7 DLCs and of course, the time we played Resident Evil 7 in real life. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and thanks for watching. Bye!